was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make it.
Hey, welcome to the award-winning 99% Radio Network.
Mad Radio.
Radio Network. Woo, don't even know where I am.
Oh, cut. Let's start over.
Start over. Welcome, Sam. You know, it's great to be back here. We took a little hiatus last week. We had a little issue, but everything's worked out great. We have an amazing show for you planned today. So Sam, lead us right in and tell us what we got going.
Yeah, well, you know, it's been a rough bunch of months, weeks, days, especially here in Texas. We had Trooper Chad Walker, DPS Trooper Chad Walker's funeral last week. We've got a Trooper Tovar.
Our dogs are barking.
Yeah, see, even the dogs are upset. Trooper Tovar, who's in the hospital recovering from a gunshot wound to the face. And we've got just 2 nights ago, Officer Lott of the Burleson PD. He was shot as well, and hear that he's going to make a recovery, or he's in recovery. So, yeah, it is. I don't know about you. Between that, we're up to 44 suicides. I don't know. It seems like open season on police officers. Like, you know, we go to work every day, and it's not our job to, you know, die for you know, it's just not. It just seems like it's crazy. And then in comes the Texas Senate. We gotta love Texas. Okay? Even though we've got all this stuff going on, a shout out to Texas Senator Joan Huffman. The Senate passed Bill 23 entitled Stop Local Police Defunding, which goes to support our law enforcement officers in Texas. And it's a pretty cool bill. Basically, if the local jurisdiction does defund the police, or there's any misuse of funds, and that's found out, that jurisdiction cannot raise property taxes.
Wow.
So I mean, they really tie it to something serious. And you know, if you're wondering, you know, John and I have matching hats, except mine is red and John's blue.
Mine's blue.
Yeah, a big shout out to the Peace Officers Angels Foundation and the Texas Rangers for having a first responder night at Globe Life Field. This past Saturday, you and me and my mom, Tara, we got to go out there and enjoy the evening. That's all I'm going to say, because supporting Major League Baseball this is where it stops and it ends. So that's it. No,
along with that,
baseball.
That night, with First Responder Appreciation Night, they also had the Blue Line Ball that night, which Alan West and Commissioner Keichler and a host of other dignitaries were at. So it was a really good law enforcement support night all around throughout Texas. A lot of people came out to the ballpark. A lot of people went out to the Blue Line Ball and just showed our support for our law enforcement.
And a lot of money was raised. A
Yes.
lot of money
Yep.
was raised.
Yep.
And we want to give a shout out to all our 911 dispatchers out there. It is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Whew, that's a big word.
Woo. But you know what? They got a big job. They got a big job. They deserve a big word.
Absolutely. A big job, a thankless job. We've spoken about the stress before with Crystal on another show. People don't realize exactly the way that they are just affected by what they do. They are first responders. They're the ones that pick up the phone when
They're
we
the
need
first
help.
responders.
And so they and not having closure on a lot of the calls is what makes it difficult for them. But I want to talk about what we got going on tonight, because we have an amazing people, and you'll see the two people coming on. They don't let our first responders slip through the cracks. Okay. Always there when first responders need us. And so I'm going to switch this up here. There we go. Hey, so Ron and Marilyn adopted Molly. Hey, Molly.
Hey, Molly, say hi.
As a rescue in 2010, and she was left out in 18-degree weather to die with her mom. But God had bigger plans for her, and she became a certified therapy dog in 2011. Therapy dog Molly and Chaplain Ron have been serving our law enforcement community since 2012. She's been over 5,000 visits. Awesome, Molly, bringing joy, laughter, and comfort to everyone she meets. She has responded to officer down calls, crisis events, and other traumatic-related calls, especially when children are involved. She's a proud member of the American Kennel Club. And Molly and Ron are partnered with the Texas and the National Fallen Officer Foundation, which provide comfort and support to those who protect and serve us on a daily basis. Chaplain Ron and Molly, welcome.
It is good to be here. I am so glad that I can talk now. Yesterday I had a tooth pulled, and so it's so good to be able to talk. And you and I, we have a former reference here. One of my best friends is Officer Ernie Stevens with Crisis Cops, and you guys had him on just a little bit ago. Ernie and I usually have dinner once a month together, so it's good to know that I'm in good company there.
You are in an excellent company, Ernie. Just like you, absolutely shining light on, I mean, what is an unfortunate side of law enforcement that we seem to be dealing with. I don't know if it's just like the press highlighting it more, or there always seems to be a silver lining in the end, because I really believe that despite the number of officer-related violence that we've had, the number of officers shot and killed, that it is bringing more awareness to the actual danger of the job and awareness to foundations and what you do. And I want to jump right in, if you can, Chaplain Ron, and just how did you decide that going into the chaplaincy that's where you needed to be?
Well, it's an interesting story because, I'm retired military. My wife is retired also. We moved 6 months ago from Nashville, Tennessee to San Antonio, Texas, where I was honored to be their chaplain for 7 years in Nashville. And as you know, Nashville, Tennessee has gone through some rough times too and everything like that. And so we just, I had a friend of mine that said, Ron, would you consider, being a chaplain in Nashville? I grew up with stigmatism, as you can tell wearing my glasses. So officers used to kid me. They say, Ron, please give me the gun before we get into the car. So we used to laugh about that. But I had a commander tell me once, he said, Ron, what you do as a volunteer chaplain is just as important as a man who carries a gun. And I know both of you being retired law enforcement, you understand the importance of chaplaincy and how important they are to come into that situation there to where officers sometimes don't want to deal with, but the chaplain can deal with it and everything, like officer down calls, death-related calls, where you have to go to a house and tell somebody their spouse is not coming home and different things like that. Chaplains fulfill that role. So I started doing that in Nashville. It took me about 3 to 3.5 years to break through the blue wall. But once I broke through it, things were well. And then out here, I have had tremendous support, and it's only taken me a few months. I am now a chaplain with 2 smaller agencies called Windcrest and Von Army. They're right outside of San Antonio, and also the Texas State Chaplain. They asked me 2.5 months ago to come on board with them. The founder of that is is basically Sergeant Trey Penny, and he's out of Dallas, Texas. You may know who he is. Yep. And Rob Kyler and I are very good friends too. And so that's how I got started, and it's just something that I have a passion to do, and I do it 24/7.
It's awesome. We can hear the passion in your voice.
Ron, when we talk about healing our heroes, and you do an amazing job, because you do the job that it's so hard for other law enforcement officers to take on. Yeah, right. But
it is.
I would be remiss to not ask this. When you talk about making notifications to officers and seeing all that trauma, are you taking care of yourself, Ron?
Yes, I am. And that's where my relationship with God comes in, and my wife too. And I take care of myself. Being with smaller agencies, sometimes I don't get called out as much. And so what I've tried to do is I form a philosophy to take care of our officers during the good times. My wife and I have made over 400 goodie bags that we give to the officers. And we have a magazine or coloring books to teach kids how to call 911, Frisbees, how to call 911, the thin blue line flags we give out. So I try to take care of the officers in the good times so that when the bad times come, I can properly respond to it.
Wow. Very nice.
So that's how I really take care of things. Today, I just got back a couple of hours ago. Officers will come down the road. They got to see the sign on my car and say, hey, chap, how you doing? And sometimes it really helps. I got to share this interesting story. Your audience will love this. I was traveling through Temple to get up to Mahia for the funeral, and I was going too fast, and all of a sudden, the DPS trooper got behind me and pulled me over, and I pulled right over, and he saw my sign, and he said, Chaplain, first off, I'm not giving you a ticket, so don't worry about that. But he said, you were going too fast. And we talked for 30 minutes, and he told me about his life and what he was doing. And it was just, he said, this is the most pleasant call I've done in about a year. And so we had a good time.
It's so nice to hear. And I'm sure there are so many officers out there that would love to open up. And you know what? For an officer to be able to open up on a car stop and be able to make that conversation, to make that connection. I bet the rest of his day was blessed. And,
Oh, it was. And he said to me, that he's real close to his chaplain. And he said he makes a practice not to give God a ticket. So, so we have a good time. And probably you as a retired New York PD police officer probably have given more warnings than you've given tickets. So, just told people to slow down, and different things like that. And so, it was great. We had just a wonderful time. I made it on to Mahia.
Yep, we lost your audio.
We lost your audio.
Lost your audio.
Let's see. So while we're trying to
you probably pulled out something, maybe pulled out a plug.
Let's see.
While he's getting his audio back,
yes,
it is just so important for our
down back.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Okay, right. There it goes. Let me keep it up here. I hit the wrong button. So anyway, sorry about that.
What I was saying is, it's so, when we lost the audio, it was so important for our officers and our first responders to have a chaplain that they know and love and that they can feel confident with to go to, because when we talk about peer support, when we talk about, just that bonding aspect of feeling comfortable enough to share, everybody feels comfortable with a man of God.
Sure.
They feel very comfortable, and at many times they feel walking away, they feel that that weight has been lifted off their shoulders because of what you do.
Yeah, I was over a lot of chaplains as far as talking to them, and I always told them when we went on duty that you're there to comfort, not to convert, and you need to really keep that in line. Sadly, we've had to replace some chaplains because they did get that out of kilter, and it made the officers very uncomfortable with them and everything. When I get into a car and I do ride-alongs, I've done 42 ride-alongs in my life, and I do ride-alongs almost every week now with Windcrest and Vaught Army. And I tell them, I said, when I get in that car, I said, this is your car. If you need to spit, spit. If you need to cuss, cuss. If you need to smoke, smoke. Do whatever you have to do. I am here as your extra eyes. And they'll get off the ride along and say, Chaplain, when can you ride with me again?
Oh, that's great. Well, John, John said, people have sometimes an easier time opening up to a chaplain. And I will go even further to say, it's even easier when the chaplain has a dog.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My Rob Kyler says we don't really care too much about Ron, but we do love his dog. so they do love Molly going out there. Yes, Molly does give me the edge because, like I said before I hit the audio by accident, I had a lady that just literally cried on the dog during the funeral and during the visitation, simply because she was just so distraught that they lost one of their best friends, especially in Groesbeck. If you know, that's a small town, and they really. One thing good about Chad Walker. Chad was a tremendous Christian. He was a tremendous father, and like I said, he came upon an ambush. And most officers have told me that if somebody wants to ambush me, there's not too much I can do. And it's really, really true, and stuff. They just can't do anything about it. So they really just have to trust their instincts and trust their training and everything like that. But it is good. Yes, Molly definitely gives the edge. She knows it. Every time people see her, she'll kind of lean toward and everything. She's real good with children. If she sees a child in trauma, Molly will come up to the child and start licking the child on the hand to try to bring it out of trauma and everything.
I gotta bring Tara in here real quick because we rescue. Ron, we rescue. We have 5 dogs, and I have to show Molly to my wife.
Oh, that's your wife. Okay, good. I almost called her your wife. I'm glad I didn't. Hey, how you doing?
Ron. Molly's a rescue as well.
Oh my gosh,
she's beautiful, and I wanted you to see her because.
Hey, say hi, Molly. Say how you doing. Say how you doing. She's looking at me like, I'm gonna nip at you.
I don't know.
When people, Molly has been on.
Things.
This is about her 52nd interview that she's done, and
I have to.
When people get to her now, she goes, "Talk to my agent."
There you go. Well, we're a rescue family as well. In fact,
there she is, Molly. Look, there's a buddy.
That's
your buddy.
I can't put mine on my lap. My guy is on the ground.
Oh man, that is so cute. Oh man, I mean, dogs are. The Veterinarian Association says that when a dog or cat licks you, a happy chemical actually goes through your body. So it's kind of interesting thing.
We have a golden retriever.
Yeah,
does not stop licking and drives Maddie crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've got a new dog that we're training called Maddie. She's our future therapy dog hero, and she is 1 year old. But if I brought her in here, she would just pee all over the place. So, Maddie, we are teaching Maddie, and Molly likes Maddie to a certain extent. But if Maddie gets too close, Molly puts her in her place.
Oh, okay, all right. You said an interesting thing about the licking. I have the opportunity. So I have a therapy dog as well who happens to be a rescue. His name is Frodo. He's sitting right next to me.
Oh no, Frodo.
Yeah, Frodo. And yes, they said your name. He's looking at me. Do you want to say hi? He's like, no, I want to lay down. And so we had the opportunity. I'm on the board of Frontline Crisis Response Solutions, and we were called in for a crisis debrief and brought Frodo with me. And same thing. So he's trained to sense that stress. He would go over. He has free reign, walking all over the room. He would lean into other people, and other people he's like, okay, you're good. He would go to somebody else and he would start licking people's hands.
One thing I wanted to mention with that is, we've the Bryan crisis where they had the mass shooter that killed several, or actually killed one and injured several. Bryan police have got a hold of me and says they may want me to come down to visit the workplace where it happened, and then visit the officers, because the officers have been emotionally impacted because of that and everything like that. And so not only do the officers and officer-involved shootings, but when they have to go to a mass shooting, as you know, as a retired police officer, those are some of your worst nightmares. They really are. They're some of your worst nightmares. I go to a large church here in San Antonio called Cornerstone, and I talked to a Texas Ranger who's over security there, and he said that his biggest fear is a mass shooting. He said, I would be able to get to the guy in about 15 seconds, but he would probably still be able to kill about 5 or 6 people. So I tell you what, it's tough.
Yeah, the fact that we have to almost think about this on a daily basis, because it just, it doesn't seem to stop. And then we had the school shooting last week as well, where
we did.
That officer's going to be okay. And it also watching the community and everybody come out to support the officer, because we know that if it had happened somewhere else, it probably would have been spun completely different. But this officer stopped the gunman, who happened to be a student, from killing lots of people.
Who knows how many people? Well, I love what Chris Conniff said, who's the founder of Officer Down Memorial Page. He said, when an officer goes down in the line of duty, it's not just an agency that grieves, it's a whole nation. And he's really right about that. I'm real close to a guy named Steven who does their research and stuff. He's out of New York too. And, he tells me, Ron, he said, I just, our worst fears are mass shootings and everything. I go to bed at night just kind of looking at my phone, wondering, is it going to ring at 2 or 3 in the morning? I don't dwell on it, but I'm like, that's a reality,
It's a scary reality.
Yeah, it's a scary reality, because when it rings at 2 to 3, it's not good news. So
you bring up such a great point about a nation that's grieving when an officer gets killed in the line of duty. I remember being on a job in New York, and if we heard of an officer being wounded or killed in California, our whole department felt the impact.
Yeah.
It was that ripple effect. And that affects each and every officer out there, knowing that one of their brothers in blue was killed. We deal with this every single day. And it's a stress that is sometimes overlooked, because we're making it a norm. We're almost making this a norm to shoot and attack our officers.
Yeah.
And we can't become callous to this.
No.
And that's one of the scary things that our nation's leading to, is that we're becoming callous of the assault on our law enforcement.
Yeah. And
we have to change that conversation.
Well, with that too, brother, is that officers now are getting to the point where they're scared to pull their weapon, and it's going to cost them their lives, is what's going to happen. As you know, in Texas, we're dealing with a crazy border issue down there, and stuff like that. And the law enforcement and first responders are the ones that are going to pay the price for this thing, and stuff like that, because people are going to come across, they got nothing to lose. The officers got everything to lose. And, they're going to be afraid to pull their weapon. Now, I know the mistake that happened with the one up in Minnesota again, and that was a tragic mistake. And I'm so sorry. And yes, she's going to face consequences for that. But 99.9%, that doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen with police officers,
Let me ask something, Ron. And I don't divulge any names or states or anything.
I won't.
But you get to talk to a lot of different officers.
Yeah.
Right? Do you see that this is one of their major concerns?
Oh yeah.
I mean, is there a common denominator amongst the 900,000 law enforcement officers in?
I patrol. Molly and I spend about 3 to 4 hours a day just patrolling San Antonio, Windcrest, that area, just to get to know it. And I've got signs on my car that say I'm a Windcrest police chaplain and a law enforcement and a fallen officer, Texas law fallen officer. We just go out there sometime, and I get to talk to a lot of these officers. I won't say any names, but just talk to a lot of these officers, and they'll tell me my biggest fear is at a traffic stop and a domestic abuse. And he said, I'm so afraid to pull my weapon, because I don't know. I don't want to kill nobody, but at the same time, I want to go home to my family too. So that's been the thing. I have officers in my area that if I drove by somebody that knows me, if I drive by them and they see me, they'll go like this, which means we're okay, or they'll do this, which means I need to pull over till they get back up, there. So, so I've got a good relationship with those kind of people, but that's their biggest fear, and it's going to cost them some of their lives. It really is,
Well, I think there's also, and this is I'm just going to call it out what it is. This is our media. And the agenda to, first of all, to dehumanize police officers, like police officers are some sort of robots. They're some sort of not human. They're not moms. They're not dads. They're not sons or daughters or, and we're just things and we're expendable. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of the liability protections being lifted. We started the show, hats off to the Texas Senate, Senator Joan Huffman passing the Stop Local Police Defunding. So the Senate passed that. So, I mean, I think Texas, certain jurisdictions in Texas, and now thanks to the Senate, it's like, hey, jurisdictions, you can either get with the program and support our law enforcement officers. You can have
one of the reasons we moved from Nashville to Texas, and Tennessee's a great state, got a great governor and everything, and I love him. But we moved here because it was a COVID-friendly state, and it's also a law enforcement-friendly state. Those are the two reasons why we moved here. And I was able to get right involved with them. And I'm just glad that, especially here in the San Antonio area, we have a tremendous backup from our community. And we're thankful for that. But, mentioning that about people talking bad about law enforcement, I told people that if you want to know how bad it is, when an officer goes down on duty, follow that Twitter feed and you'll see what the comments are. You'll see how bad it really is, and everything I said. Just follow it for an hour until it makes you sick to your stomach, But I said you'll see a lot of great comments, but you'll also see those comments. I'm glad he died. I'm glad this. I'm glad that. And I have to get off of it because it just makes me mad, and everything. And so I have better things to do. So
you're a military man, and just like law enforcement, people have gotten into the conversation. Well, you know what? They took the job knowing the risks.
Yeah.
Or when a veteran dies in the line of duty overseas, well, that's what he's being paid to do. And that's not what he's being paid to do. Since when does someone get paid to die? Or get assaulted or get hurt, and that's the mindset of a lot of people. And it goes to what Sam said. It goes back to our local media, just portraying officers as robots.
Oh yeah, well there's a great documentary out called Fallen that you may have seen before. That's out by the Officer Down Memorial page. They sponsored it, and it goes through and people just said, some people that they interviewed, policemen aren't a dangerous job. That's the most undangerous job in the world. Just ignorant because they're the only people that put on a uniform, and also first responders that go to work not knowing if they're coming home.
Right. Exactly. Let's. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Molly.
Yeah.
So Molly was adopted as well. You rescued her.
Rescued her.
Was she a puppy when you?
She was a puppy. We had just had to put our Gabby down with kidney failure. She was 12 years old, and just it was probably because we fed her too bad. But she died of kidney failure. So we got Molly about a week later, and a lady introduced us to it, and Molly jumped into my wife's lap and started licking on her, and that was the end of it. We adopted her and brought her home, and we trained her for, like I said, about 1.5 to 2 years before she became a therapy dog. So,
yeah, it is. It's very in-depth, intense training. Been there, and what have you seen personally, like the biggest impact when you have Molly? You're bringing her into, is it a crisis debrief or just into a station to say hello?
Yeah.
I mean, dogs in general, if you're a dog person,
it is. I've got to share. There's one story I got to share with you. About 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago, when Molly started visiting with me, the Nashville Police Department, we took her to a roll call, and the sergeant got up and just kept going on and on and on. And finally, Molly, in the middle of nowhere, went, "Ow!" And all of a sudden, the officers laughed and said, "Sergeant, that means for you to shut up and sit down."
That's great.
So, they've never forgotten that. I get emails today from the officer says, "Where's Molly? We need her again to make us laugh," So, but the debrief, Molly has gone in. We in Nashville, I've been to 4 officer involved funerals. We had the Waffle House shooting that Molly was involved in. We had the school shooting up in Paducah, Kentucky, where Molly went and helped the students, and we also had an officer that was killed by a lady that was on PCP and everything and killed him. And I ended up taking Molly there every week for 6 months just to help them to be able to kind of calm down, because as you know, the media goes to different stories. That's the nature of the beast, and stuff they go. And what we ended up doing too is Molly and I would end up buying, I would buy lunch once a month for the officers too, for 6 months to a year, to realize they are not forgotten. And so that's exactly what we did. So Molly is real good, and the whole room changes when she goes in. Absolutely changes. They love her. And when I was up, this is the first one we've done in Texas, was up in Mahia, and they just loved her. I mean, everybody stopped to pet Molly. I tried to leave, and they wouldn't let me leave. They said, no, you can't leave now, and everything. And so they were good. We stopped by the Groesbeck Police Department, because that's where Chad Walker worked before he became a DPS agent, a DPS trooper. And they were so glad there. They said, this makes us feel so good. And a girl just had tears trickling down her face, because they all knew Chad. So, it was good. It's good.
You bring up another good point. You hit on such a great topic. And when me and Sam talk about stacked trauma and decompression.
Sure.
And we've talked to a lot of officers, especially ones that were in mass shootings, who at 9 o'clock in the morning they went to a mass shooting, and then at 10 o'clock at night they're getting a call for a homicide or something else.
Yeah.
And they roll right into the next call, and we forget about that earlier trauma, and
we forget the human side. Yeah.
You bring in Molly for those 6 months, that had to have a positive impact, because it was something that they never forgot. Someone didn't forget about them.
Well, I know that you guys are, not real far from Dallas, and you remember in 2016 so well the Dallas ambush and everything.
Yep.
And Sergeant Penny told me they're still not getting over that now. They're still having real trouble with that. I mean, in Nashville, they had the bombing there just over New Year's, or Christmas Day bombing,
Right.
And we have officers that are still going through counseling there that still see the flashes and everything. So yeah.
It leaves a lasting imprint, and everybody's different. I mean, you can have officers that go through an entire career, and their file cabinet has enough space, if you will, for everything, and then you don't hear about that officer until they retire, and some benign incident at the grocery store causes a lifetime of traumas to come flooding out.
Well, there's
I mean it, and I think that a lot of we hear a lot of programs for service dogs for veterans.
Sure.
We don't have, in my opinion, we
Sure.
don't have enough programs providing service dogs to officers. Now,
definitely.
while they're on
definitely.
the job, but I mean after their career, because
there's a dear friend of mine out of the Tennessee area called Tamara. She has written a book called Through My Eyes, and it is a tremendous book. She was a crime scene investigator for 20-something years, and she saw everything. And she said, Ron, if it wasn't for my faith in God, I don't think I would ever be able to make it, and everything like that. And she has a tremendous book out now that's called Through My Eyes, and she goes through what she saw and everything. And so it's just unbelievable. You guys are human like everybody else. You got families that you go home to. You got kids that you raise. You got kids that love you, and stuff like that. And when a mother or dad don't come home, they're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
And to me, that gets to me, because these officers are human, and I have vicariously tried to become one of them. Even though I won't ever be an officer, I can get as close as I can as a chaplain and try to live their life too with them. What are they going through?
As a chaplain, getting that close, because me and Sam we we don't have the in, you know, but you see the reality of some of the departments out there. You visit all these departments,
Sure.
and I don't want to say pushback, but do you see a lot of officers not being well taken care of within their own department, or departments just not stepping up to the plate?
Yeah, without mentioning any names or something, and stuff, I see some pushback. I haven't seen a lot, which has been good. But the as you know, big departments have substations or precincts, and sometimes those precincts and substations, they're just kind of there. The officer's supposed to do their jobs and everything, and nobody really thinks about it from headquarters, or anything like that. You were in New York.
Yep.
You know what it was like to be a precinct kind of all by yourself over there and everything like that. And so when Molly comes and visits, it's really a joy to them because I care about them. And so we go to the precincts. I love headquarters. I got a great relationship with a bunch of chiefs, but I love going to the precincts because that's where your foot soldiers are. That's where your officers are. That's the ones that are going to go out and give their lives for what's going on, and everything. Yep. And those are the ones that are going to respond when 911 rings, and everything like that. And talking about 911, Molly and I visit the dispatchers a lot too. They are what I call our hidden heroes. They are our hidden heroes. And we visit them, and they, I just talked with, I think
Brian. She wants to go see her sister.
Yeah, she's fine. She's fine. I just talked.
She's like, I had enough of this TV stuff.
Yeah, that's right. She'll be okay.
I'm done. I'm over the interview.
Yeah. Well, I just talked with Brian. The Burleson rather dispatch, and they said if you come down here and visit the officers, you better bring Molly to see us. So,
it really is. It really does become about the dog. I mean, Frodo, when we were up where we were. And everyone's like, I just want to get in line and pet Frodo. I don't need to say anything. I just want to pet the dog. And part of just in general life, having an outlet, John and I both say, if you can't talk to, if you feel like you can't talk to a person,
sure,
at least talk to your dog.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because your dog will always listen. When I had this toothache, and I had it for about a week, because a few years ago I had a stroke, so I had to take blood thinner, and get off of that. And you can't tell I have one now, but I did. And Molly would just get beside me and say, "Daddy, it's going to be okay." So she would help me. But what's great about not only Molly, Molly is not the only dog out there that can be used. And it's great to know people like you, so that if there's a crisis that I find that happens, I can email you guys and say, "Hey, are you close?" And if you're close, then you can use your trained therapy dog to go in and say, "Hey."
What kind of cues? What kind of, like Sam's, like Frodo, when we do a walk the bridge on the 22nd of every month.
Sure.
Frodo leaned up against me, and Sam, you noticed it. I didn't even notice it, but he kind of like leaned up against me.
And he stayed there.
He stayed there. He kind of felt my stress.
Sure.
Does Molly give you signals that maybe somebody else wouldn't notice, and this way you can approach that person and see how they are?
Yeah, Molly does. Molly will look at a person, and Molly will go before me because she don't care what they say, and everything. So she'll go with the person, and the person starts petting her. And I said, "Yeah, it's my dog." And she says, "Can Molly just stay with me for a while?" I've had that happen probably 50 times.
Wow.
To where the people have just said, "Can Molly come up?" And especially a lot of the women officers that are moms and, everything like that, they really are emotional, a lot of these funerals, and everything. Yeah. And they just said they'll come up and just cry on Molly. I probably can count 24 times to where an officer has actually come up and just wept on Molly and everything like that, because he was so excited. And the thing about it is that about the Texas Fallen Officer Foundation, what's been so neat to come on as their chaplain. This is the first time they've done this. And they brought me on, and because of Molly, a lot too, they brought me on. And so it's an opportunity to be able to be on and to share with you guys and others. It's sad to know that only TV stations contact me when an officer goes down. They don't contact me before. You guys, this is a regular show, but as you know, with TVs, they always call you when there's a crisis, and that's just the nature of the beast. You just got to
right. Mainstream media, they just want to. If it bleeds, it leads, and
if it bleeds, it leads, and they understand. And I told them, I understand. They go, hey, that's the way that I do my job, and I understand that. We have a great relationship to do that and everything. But then they'll say later, 6 months from now, we may just have you on for the fun of it, and everything. So that's good, yeah. But anyway, that's what we do. And Molly is really involved with the like I said, the Texas FOF. We take care of people that have been critically injured or die in the line of duty. Nationally, we take care of ones that have actually been killed in the line of duty.
And let's talk a little bit about the FOF.
Sure.
So there's a lot of organizations out there that say, oh yeah, when the officer's critically injured or God forbid, killed in line of duty, we come in, we provide, if they need their rent paid or, scholarships for their children. And talk a little bit about what the FOF does.
What the FO does. Okay. When we find out that an officer has been injured or critically injured in the state of Texas in the line of duty, we immediately try to contact the family directly. And we have ways that we can do that through cops, concerned police survivors, others that we can go through, but we don't give through GoFundMe. And I love the GoFundMe stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's all great, but we try to give the money directly to the family. And we try to make sure that check is delivered directly to the wife, to the next of kin or children or uncle or dad. We make sure it does that. And that's what we try to do when it's in Texas. Texas, if it's critically injured or death, we do both. Nationally, we can only do just basically line of duty deaths. And as you know, there's only a certain amount of budget that can go around. So that's what we have to do with that. Sure. But we've been doing this since 2016. And the Nationals about 2017, I think, or something like that. And we've been able to help over 150 families, which has been good.
That's huge.
Fantastic. Now, do you do that through corporate donors, holding fundraisers?
Yeah, we hold fundraisers. As you know, COVID has kind of put a nick in that a little bit, but we hold fundraisers. We do a night to remember, which is a fundraiser that we do. I think they've done it in the Dallas and San Antonio area.
I was at one of the night to remembers. It was
I'm going to be at the next one.
With Trey Penny.
Trey Penny, he's actually told me on the next one, I want Molly up here. You just bring her with you, so I'm going to be there.
That's when they bring the widows of the fallen officers.
Yeah, I just talked to Trey.
Beautiful night.
Yeah, beautiful. And so we try to do that, but we also have the direct officer initiative, which means a person can go when an officer goes down in the line of duty and directly give to us for that officer, and it goes directly to the officer. So we have that direct initiative on there. And so we're trying to do a lot of things. As you know, when you met Trey, Sergeant Trey, he's a visionary. He wants this thing to grow. He works with that, and he also works with the Dallas Fallen Officer Foundation and everything. So Penny, and plus he's a full-time police officer and everything too. There's another lady named Carrie that's out of Tyler. She is the finance lady, and she does a lot, and I work closely with her. She is the Tyler community specialist officer for them and everything like that. So these folks have full-time jobs, and they're so glad I don't, because they now can tap me for a lot of stuff because I don't work. And Penny just found that out the other day. He said, "You actually don't have a job?" He said, "No." He says, "Now you do."
Well, you do. You actually have a very important job.
Yeah.
And we have seen and experienced firsthand that it's people like us that have the foundations that are out there every day talking to people, making a difference, and sometimes we forget about ourselves. Yeah. And we have to remember that we're one big family. Well,
we are. Everybody's on the same team at the end of the day, and we need to understand that whether it's a sheriff, whether it's a Texas Ranger, whether it's a DPS agent, or whether it's a regular police officer, we're all on the same team, because these guys are out there doing the same job with the same training, making the same traffic stops and the same domestic abuse and mental cases.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shared a video a couple of days ago of a traffic stop. You bring up traffic stops.
The New Mexico one? Yeah.
The one in New Mexico, yeah.
Brutal. We took care of that family.
Oh, you did? That was Jared. Jarrett or
Yeah,
Officer Jarrett?
he was and most of them are ambushes, just brutal ambushes, and that was a brutal ambush. And the guy came out with like an AK-47 or something like that and shot him.
Yeah,
it was
a rifle. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's and I mean, within 30 seconds, there were people around him trying to help him, but
But it makes me think, when we talk about an officer who's gonna, take that extra second and a half to pull his gun. What was his mindset? If he would have been the aggressive officer, at that initial moment, would he still be here?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
He actually, and if you listen to his body cam, what he talked, he was very calm with the person. He was very polite. He was like, he knew the gun was in the car, and he was like, just put the gun away. So, what steps does an officer take now? It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it is, because that guy literally lulled him into a trap is what he did. And, but, I find out with people that talk about people unjustly being killed by police officers, I said, at most cases, I look at the video. If that person would have complied to begin with, they'd still be alive.
If you look at the last five shootings,
yeah,
not including the one here in Dallas with Amber Geiger,
yeah,
all the other 5 shootings, the perpetrator became the victim became aggressive, and fought with the police officer, causing him to become hypervigilant, causing him to pull his weapon, and like you said, non-compliance.
Yeah, and I know in our church, we have a church that about 23,000 members, and the officers want to know where I sit, because they said in case that's why I asked them finally, why do you want that? They said, man, we have some kooks in this church, and we know where they sit, and they are breaking the law, but if they do, and we need to try to calm them down, a chaplain would be good to have, But they had one in our church the other day. He stood up and tried to berate the preacher, and I mean, he was out of there. They put him on the ground. He was out of there within 30 seconds. Wow. It's sad that things happen like that in churches, that we have to do background checks and everything. When I was growing up in church, I'm 64 years old. When I was growing up in church, background checks, laugh. What's a background check?
Right,
now,
exactly.
you don't ever let people work with children, without a background check.
Right. And you bring up Ernie's, Ernie and Joe. I watched their documentary. They provided San Antonio with such an amazing program.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I think both of them together have saved countless lives.
Oh, they have,
because they have reacted the way they should react. They stay hyper vigilant, but they also have the compassion to help. And God bless San Antonio for really taking that on.
Yeah. Well, San Antonio is an example now of the mental health unit across the country. It's one of the things that people look at now in San Antonio. And and I thank the Chief McCannis for pushing that program through, and just different ones. Another officer, Douglas Green, is a great community officer that really makes sure the community is in touch always with the police officers here. So it's good. It's good.
Yeah, another thing is, again, watching that documentary and understanding police work. It's about the human condition and bringing your humanness to every situation. You're as a police officer, you're human. The person that you're called to assist or to inquire about or to arrest, they're human.
Yeah.
And your job, you do an important bridging to it's not police officer victim, police officer assailant, police officer whatever you want to call it. It's human to human.
Yeah.
And bad things happen. Do they always have to happen? No, that's where our training comes in. And I think I have watched a number of police chaplains over the years, and what you all have the ability to do is it's almost like walking into a room that's got this electromagnetic kind of shock thing going around. People are either, in shock, they're really ticked off. Anger is usually part of the biggest emotion, You do have sadness, you have confusion. In comes the chaplain with the crisis debrief team, and it is you guys just, it's like that.
Yeah.
And that static electricity is gone.
Yeah.
People just.
Yeah, and you know that it's interesting because most of the time when I'm called out, if I'm called out now in Texas, I have not had to be called out into a major incident yet and stuff. And I've only been here 6 months, and I'm glad. You know, I don't want those, you know, and everything. But when they do come, and I'm called out, I'm usually called out about 45 minutes to an hour later after the scene has become cold, if you know what I'm talking about. Because like I say, the last thing we need is to get our chaplain shot. So you know, we bring you out when everything, and then I'm there for the tragic aftermath. Is what happens. You know, and stuff, because the officers cooled the scene. The suspect is in custody, but you know, things happen. One of the major incidents I had to be called on 3 years ago in Nashville was that our neighbor across the street was a granddad, and he snapped and he took the gun and he turned the gun on his 7-year-old child, turned the gun on his wife, turned the gun on himself. Then the 4-year-old ran over to our house with blood all over and said, he's just killed my whole family. Right across the street, the lowest crime rate in the city of Nashville was our neighborhood and over there. And so we were on call for 12 hours that day. So those kind of, the tragic aftermath is just absolutely horrific for these officers, for these men and women that have to come as first responders. I mean, you know, it's not the initial incident that's bad, it's the aftermath that happens.
Ron, do they utilize you or your service or Molly? You know, I know for a mass shooting or an officer shooting,
Sure.
that becomes very, very emotionally fueled. But do they utilize you for the officer that just did CPR on a newborn or a child drowning or a car accident?
Yeah, children are very, we went through special training, Molly and I did. Actually, went through the Billy Graham law enforcement training and everything like that. And I've gone through online trainings of how to deal with officers that have had to deal with a child to a mass shooting, different things like that. I actually just went through an online training of hostage negotiation and what a chaplain does in those situations. And so, you're there basically for the officer to begin with because they're your family. Then you're there for the victims and everything like that. You may be there for both at the same time, but first you want to make sure your officer's taken care of. You want to make sure that he's okay.
That's what I'm kind of saying. Like, you know, you may have a young officer who, you know, we got someone's coming, you know, perform CPR on a young victim who drowned in a pool. Will they call you and Molly out and say, hey?
Yeah, they will. What we've had to do in Texas for the first 6 months, I've had to get on everybody's radar, you know, if you know what I mean. Because with everything going on, sometimes the last thing you think about is a chaplain. You just do. But I am out there enough now where I'm finally getting on their radar to where they're saying, call Ron, you know, and everything like that. So first you have to get on their radar, and that's relationships. That's building. As you know, with your chaplains, you probably had to get to know your chaplain for a while before you finally said, hey, I got to call my chaplain. You need to think about that.
It's not the norm for us to do that. It really isn't, and it should be. It really should be.
Yeah,
you know?
It should be, but I can work through that, and that's what I've done. And if I don't get a call at night, I just sleep well, you know, and everything. So, but if I get a call, the Von Army Police Chaplaincy that I just started, they just reorganized their police department 2 years ago. And the first thing the chief wanted to do was bring on a chaplain. And so when he met me, he said, will you be our chaplain? It's 30 minutes away from me, but when a crisis happens, 30 minutes is not far, you know, and everything. And so nothing's happened yet. We did have an officer involved in a head-on collision, but he's going to be okay. But I text him every single day to make sure he was fine. He says, Chaplain, you don't know what that means to me, that you care about me. You know, he said, I'm fine. I'm sore, but I'm fine, you know. But he knows that I'm there. He said, if anything comes up, you'll be the first I call.
See, it's the little things. You can have a full-time job. You like Sam said,
this is a full-time job.
This is a full-time job. I love it. I mean, my wife will come in the room and she'll say, what are you doing? I said, I'm just waiting for a crisis to happen. I hate saying it that way, but that's reality, you know. I'm on the internet 8 to 9 hours a day. I'm out there 4 or 5 hours a day. So, I mean, it's just, and you know, I go to bed at 10 or 11 at night, sleep to about 8, get up and start it all over again. So,
well, we've got a lot of prayers to send out to the universe what
Amen.
you all are what you are doing with your local law enforcement agencies. The Texas Fallen Officers Foundation is just, I mean, it's thankless. If we didn't have people like you, organizations like the Texas Fallen Officers Foundation and their foundation nationally, there would be a lot less people and families.
Yeah.
Knowing
Well, I say
that, hey,
every little bit hurts. I just got off the phone the other day with a grant guy with Tunnels to Tower. You may have heard of them,
Yeah.
Tunnels to Towers. They are able to a lot of money and everything. I mean, they're just able to pay off mortgages and everything. They did it for the Boulder, Colorado guy and everything like that. But they say what you guys do is just as important. If it's $1,000, it's $1,000. They
Right.
said, man, we're not more important than you are. He said, we're on the same team, you know? And so we need to understand what you guys do and what we do. We are on the same team at the end of the day. And we need to learn to find out how when it's appropriate, to learn how to tangibly partner together. You know, and everything like that.
I don't mean to cut anybody off, but I see somebody that's on our comments section that I really have to give a big shout out to, who actually was essential in probably the capture of our Burleson fugitive, is Tom Berry. He's out of Florida. He is the founder of Blue Health. Now, I'm sure everybody got the Blue Health text messages on their phone.
I follow them. I have it on my phone.
Yes. Tom is the founder of Blue Health. Not Blue, Blue Alert. Sorry.
Blue Alert is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Blue Health. I'm thinking Blue Alert.
It's all blue at the end.
It's all blue at the end. But his organization that's picking up over about 48 states now to help our officers. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to Tom and say,
I want to give a big shout out to him
essential here in Texas.
Yeah, I appreciate what he does because he does a great job on that, Tom, and I just appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. That's awesome. So, Chaplain Ron, just to kind of tie things together, if we have a lot of people listening from all over, if a first responder wants to reach out to you, maybe it's not connected to departments that you are actually connected to, but they're listening to the show. They are connecting with you because they're hearing your voice. They're seeing Molly. How can somebody reach out to you?
I would encourage them just to go to www.texasfof.org. That's www.texasfof.org. That email will get to Miss Carrie, and she will be glad to forward it to me. So I will let Carrie know. There may be several that'll come in, and that's just easier. I don't mind giving out my email, but that's just easier. Then Carrie can get it to me, and then they will have my direct email once I email them back. But Carrie would forward that to me, and then I would be glad to help. If they want any other questions they would have, they can go directly to Carrie, and she would be glad to answer their questions. But yeah, we just want this organization to grow, not for the sake of the Texas FOF or the National FOF, but for the sake of the men and women who lay down their lives every single day. Those are the ones we want to get the help.
God bless.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I care about these people more than anything in the world. I mean, I eat, sleep, and drink these guys. So guys, gals, I'm sorry.
And, I say guys, and that means guys.
Yeah,
and
I know it's just been great that the Texas OF saw a vision to pull me on board. And like I said, it's just been 2.5 months since I've been on board. Now I've known them for about a year, but it's been about 2.5 months. Once I moved to Texas, things kind of moved forward on that one and everything.
Well, we can't thank you enough for your time. And Molly, she is so patient. I know, Molly. This is your
Molly. They say you're so patient.
you're over it. You guys are an absolute delight. We will be in touch.
We will. Sure. And, you know, like I said, if anything comes up where you need my expertise, if an officer goes down, then we can talk about that too and everything like that.
Sounds
if
good.
You're ever in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please come down and visit.
I will.
We'd love to meet you and Molly.
Yeah.
The 22nd of every month, Sam brings Frodo to the bridge. We'd love for you to walk the bridge with us and meet the men and women.
Penny lives in your area, and he told Sergeant Penny, and he told me that he would love me to come down and to be able to do that. So, to be able to be involved with them. So hopefully if I don't meet you there, I'll meet you tonight to remember if we do another one of those, which I think that Sergeant's trying to really put that together and everything. I'm really trying to help them a lot with it because Sergeant is so busy right now that it's just hard for him to do some things.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to take the edge off on that.
Well, we're getting in the comment stream. Thank you for all you do, Chaplain Ron. And yeah, again, from me and John, truly from the bottom of our hearts, thank you, you and Molly, for what you do.
Well, what you guys do, I didn't even know you exist until I saw Ernie on you. And, I reached out to you because of Ernie. And then you guys wrote me and said, well, let's have you on the program, and I thought that was great. So Ernie has really opened up a lot of doors for me, too. So it's
put a good word in for me and Sam with the big guy. I'm sure you got a good connection, Say, hey, you guys put us on a show. Maybe we get a free pass in.
Yeah, that would be great. But I know that you guys, how long have y'all been doing this?
Oh, my gosh.
Almost 2 years, about a year and a half.
A year and a half, and it's
has it only been that? It seems like
guys have not.
Longer.
I've got my Facebook page of the Texas Fallen Officer Foundation for me, and I only have 276 likes. You guys have got more than that, so that's good.
Well, thank you so much.
We'll promote you. We'll promote you and get you out there.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Well, Molly's getting down if you don't mind, so that'd be fine.
No worries. Again, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Bye-bye, guys. See you.
Thanks, Ron.
God bless you, Chaplain Ron. Wow, what an amazing guy! You can just from his heart, everything from the heart, and that is what makes the difference and allows him to connect at a different level, a very deep and personal level. And it was just great to have him and Molly and hear both of their stories. We should be blessed. Yes, as Megan said, welcome to Texas, and we're glad to have you in our state. Yes, we are, for real. So the hour just flew by. As it always does.
Because Molly took up so much time.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time of the show.
Hey, Ron mentioned followers and supporters. If you guys are watching us on Facebook, thank you so much. If you would be so kind to jump over to our YouTube page where we stream live every week as well. On YouTube, we are Mad Radio Texas. Just follow us there. Our key number is 200. We got a long way to go, so we're asking for your help so that we can do some more things with our page. Yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube, if you wouldn't mind jumping over to our Facebook page, and on Facebook you can find us at Making a Difference TX, and also at a Badge of Honor. We live stream to those. As well. And speaking of a badge of honor, let me work the screen magic here. Where is it? Here we go. Let's see if we can do this.
No, you're good.
Work that way. It just covers our faces, I think. So can we move it? No.
No, I don't think you can move it.
So there we go. We can lean out. There we go. Other one, yeah. So on the 23rd of this month, which is a week from Friday, a Badge of Honor is Healing Our Heroes. We continue to put on workshops for active first responders to talk about things that we just talked about with Ron, with Chaplain Ron. We talk about the trauma. The difference between our workshop and a lot of others is you're gonna work at the workshop, you're going to leave the workshop with actual tried and true tactics to handle the stress when it comes up. That means right after the call. That means first thing in the morning to prep and prime yourself, because it's all about post-traumatic growth, not staying in the trauma. And so if you are watching, of anybody in the Texas area, police officers get 8 hours of TCOL. If you're an officer, you know what I'm talking about. So space is limited. Sign up now by going to abadgeofhonor.com. Wait, I think I have other things that I can. Ooh, look at that. I'm getting good at this button pushing. Abadgeofhonor.com. You can register for the workshop right there. John, what you got?
That's it, man. I think it was a great show. I really enjoyed the conversation with Ron. I think we are starting to, we have to change the conversation nationally. Me and you have discussed this on multiple occasions. The mental health of our officers is a priority, not only for their work but for their home. And we gotta keep sharing these shows. We gotta keep sharing the conversation. We have to humanize, and we have to get rid of the stigma. A big shout out to the Police Blues magazine for publishing our articles every month. Thank you. And we have to support our law enforcement. And today is not the day to give up. Never is. And if you could be anything in this world, just be kind.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next week. And to all those law enforcement officers who have been affected very personally, those that we've lost, those that are recovering from their injuries, we are with you. We support you 100%. Remember, you are not alone. Till next week. Take care.
Sam. Good night.
Night.